Hey, what's going on, pilots? Today we got something different for you today. I went up with Casmo TV while on stream, and he taught me a lot. And if you don't know who Casmo TV is, make sure you go check him out. He has the Low Level Hell podcast. He also has his own YouTube channel with a lot of good content on there. He was a former Kiowa and Apache pilot in the Army, so he's got over 2,200 hours of flight time in helicopters. So today we just go up on the search and rescue server, which I thought was a lot of fun. And we share stories. He has a ton of good stories to share. And I think you'll enjoy this one because he shares lots of tips for flying helicopters and just the experience of listening to everything Casmo has to say. So hopefully you guys enjoy. It's a long episode here, but we had a lot of fun flying. And I hope you guys enjoy listening. Thanks for joining.
Is it not starting? What's going on?
It's starting up now.
Oh, okay.
I thought I put the...
Oh, you're not even auto starting. You're
I'm starting it up, baby.
Oh.
The trigger doesn't mess around.
Eddie. Yeah, so we'll see where this guy is. Since we're in the mountains, he's probably going to be on a mountain, and we'll have to hover over him. And we can, in fact, I'll do it now. We're going to set our rope length. So again, in the F10 menu, we can change our rope length. With the F5, I'm going to go, I usually go with 60 meters, so F3 long.
Okay.
That's generally long enough. Now, if he's on like a really steep incline where you're going to have to get a little bit higher, then yeah, I'll lower it to 80. But yeah, 60 usually does the trick. And then you got to like hover within like 10 meters of that. Like if you go too low, but for some reason he can't get on the rope because I don't know why. I don't like the rope snaked around my feet, so I don't want to be rescued, I guess.
Okay, I get it.
And then the hardest part, and this is what I love about the server just for helicopter shit, because it really trains you to practice how to hover. You've got to get like within 10 meters of the dude.
Okay.
In fact, I think 9 meters is really the sweet spot. So once you get close to him, you'll see a little message pop up, and it'll tell you, hey, the guy is at your 1 o'clock for 200 meters or whatever, and you just start working your way over there, and it'll keep giving you updates. And once you're within 9 meters, you hold it steady as long as you're at the right altitude, and it'll tell you if you're too high or too low. And then when you're in the sweet spot, a little timer will start counting down from 10 seconds, and at 1 second, you are good to go.
Okay, sounds good.
So, yep.
What's a good, for the altimeter, the radar altimeter, what do you guys usually put in there?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. I don't ever mess with that.
I didn't know if, like, you guys had, like, a set number, like 50 feet, you want the thing to go off, or...
Oh, for, like, the low bug?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mess. I mean, in real life, yeah, we typically would set it for, whatever you're comfortable with. I think out here, like in an Apache, you'd probably set it for a couple hundred feet. In a Kiowa, 50 feet, I think, was the standard.
Okay.
But I didn't even know you could set it in the Huey, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the left knob.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
you can. I put it on 200. I don't know if it's synced for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't. Does it display? Like, I can't see.
No, there's a white bug. Let me see if I start moving it. You see it
okay.
moving?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And then you should be able to move it right now if you want to.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
So I see it moving.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jester, what's up, man?
I know how to fly the Huey, and that's it. Like, I don't know anything else. So.
All right. So are we ready to go? Where are we going?
Yeah, we're heading 316 for 8.8.
Alrighty. I don't know.
On the left.
I don't know where the wind. Well, the wind's coming from behind.
Probably, yeah. It seems like that's the norm.
Did I break all the rules?
Nah, you're good. Nice and smooth.
We're gonna take off over the commander's house.
Yeah. Blow him out. Right.
So basically we're just following this valley here.
Yeah, it looks like it. So once we get within, I can't remember how close, but we'll get a message saying that they can hear us and they're going to pop smoke. So we should see yellow smoke out on the horizon, and they'll give us a cardinal or a clock direction. So it's pretty easy to find, guys. If they say they pop smoke and you don't see them, it means they're on the other side of a ridge. So
okay. When's the last time you've flown?
in real life?
Yeah.
Gosh, it's been a while. It's been probably 2.5 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I did my fixed wing stuff. I got my private license about 1.5 years ago, and then I just stopped flying because like it's so expensive, you know.
Yeah.
$150 to go rent the plane for an hour. It's like, okay, and do what? You know, just practice landing. But yeah, no, I left the flying job in Texas. I went to Louisiana for 2 years and didn't get to fly there, and then came here, and now I'm retiring. In fact, I just dropped my retirement packet the last week. So
cool, man. Well, congratulations.
yeah, I'm super stoked.
And where are you at now?
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Is it still pretty cold there?
No, today it was up in the 70s, so it's been getting nice. It's good because I'm getting fat. I need to go run again. I just like, my rule is like, if it's below 60, I'm not running. You know? Like, I don't like, because I'm from Florida, so I like to be comfortable.
Yeah. Where at in Florida?
Tampa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in Orlando.
Okay. Yeah, I went to college there at UCF.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live like 15 minutes just south of UCF. And
okay.
Lake Nona.
All right.
So what is the best way to climb above these mountains if you had to do it in real life?
So you want to start early, you know. If you know you're heading towards mountains, then you just start climbing and just get over them early. Because, I mean, you know the deal too, even with a normal plane, you run into these situations where you just run out of schlitz, and
right.
You don't want to be getting up to the mountains and suddenly realize, like, man, I can't climb high enough. I mean, that's the thing about helicopters that I think people don't understand, is once you get it in forward flight, it's basically an airplane. I mean, it's, you know, it basically functions the same way. So you have a lot of the same considerations.
So what are what would probably be like the best climb speed in the Huey?
I don't know, but I would guess that it's probably around 60 or so knots.
Okay.
Just based on, it seems to fly a little bit like the Kiowa. So you know, it's kind of the same in the fixed wing world. You've got your best, your bucket speed, your best maneuverability speed, and things like that. So I would say, yeah, probably 60, 70 knots is probably a good climb.
Nice.
Trying to pull up the daggone comms menu, and it's not working. This is another problem I have with the Huey. Whenever I'm doing multi-crew, it seems to...
If you do, I think it's right alt backslash. Try that.
I'm gonna check.
I just got a call.
Oh, there you go. Yep, check 1 o'clock. It's popping smoke.
No joy.
Alright, so he's on the other side of this ridge, so...
Okay. So would you suggest we just like keep going straight and come back around?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. Just turn it around.
Trying to get the professional helicopter experience. What's going on, guys? What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, I mean,
Grey Wolf, what's
the
up,
number
bro?
one thing with flying helicopters is understanding where the winds are coming from.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell.
I think more so than fixed wing. I think it's super important.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to tell in DCS.
Yeah, near impossible. What did you say to bring up the comms menu?
Try right alt and backslash.
Right alt backslash. See, and this is the thing. It seems like it depends on which radio you're on. So let me mess around with this. See, yeah. That's what does it. I don't understand. Basically, if the radio selector switch down here by the armament panel is on private, it lets you pull up the comms menu, at least from the left seat.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a bug. But you've already found them, so that's good. So yeah, I would just kind of come around the right side and
all right.
do a little little high recon of the area. So realistically, the things that we would be wanting to pay attention to is obviously the winds, taking a look at the terrain itself. Is there somewhere we can land, which we probably can. In fact, there's the smoke I got at 2 o'clock.
All right, Sally.
And just assessing our ingress and egress routes.
Can you guys hear Casmo okay? Let me know.
Yeah, so what did we say? The winds were coming from the south, I think. That's what we said. Obviously, the smoke will tell us, though it doesn't. Is that the thing in DCS? Smoke will tell you direction, but not actually the windsocks?
Honestly, I don't know.
That's what Terminus was telling me the other day, is that it's... Because I didn't know that, and he's like, yeah, the windsocks just tell you magnitude, but they don't actually tell you direction. But smoke
really?
Yeah. So it looks like if we swing around, you know, continue straight forward for a little ways and then swing back around, descending right turn, probably get you right into the spot. Are you getting that message that says you're within 750 meters?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, so once we get closer in, we'll get a lot of those. And so what helps me, and this is probably going to suck for you because the smoke, you're probably going to sit in the damn smoke and you're going to go IMC, but what helps me with this is try to find a tree and use that to essentially brace yourself, meaning, you know, just hover based off that tree, hold your position based off that tree, and then we'll fine tune our distance and direction to the guy.
Okay.
So,
is this okay that what I'm doing right here, or is this a bad thing?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I mean, we're into the wind. We're probably gonna have to just need to kind of guide ourselves closer, and then we'll start getting those messages.
Okay.
I mean, usually at about 150, 200 meters, I think it starts telling you. We should get it soon.
Like I'm right above red line, though.
Okay. That's fine.
Just didn't want to burn the engine out here. All right, so moving in.
And then just, you know, always be conscious of what's your flyaway plan if something goes bad. I mean, you know, the problem with a single engine aircraft is, you know, we're going in the trees.
Yeah.
But like if this was a dual engine aircraft, we would be constantly thinking about, okay, if I lose one engine, you know, I can't hover probably with one engine, but I can damn sure fly out of here.
Okay.
All right, so 12 o'clock, 100 meters, so you're getting close. So see that big ass greener than the other trees, like right off the nose, a little bit to the left of the nose?
Yeah.
I would just kind of use that, just fly towards it. Use that as your reference.
Okay.
Because it looks like it's pretty close. All right, I wouldn't go too much lower.
Stopping.
All right, so you have 30 meters, so just continue to just squeeze on up closer to that tree.
Roger.
And you're drifting left. Okay, so we're at 30 meters. We're getting pretty close. Probably. Oh no!
Oh boy, there goes.
Oh.
There's our escape plan.
Oh, the humanity!
I failed.
I wonder what you hit. I think maybe you got a little too low and probably the tail hit something. That's the only thing I can think of.
Alright. It's all good. Alright, how about you take over and then I'll watch you do it.
Alright.
Maybe I cooked the engine. Because I mean I was right above that red line for a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah. So maybe we need to bring less fuel.
Yeah, I guess we need to look to see what it starts with. I don't know. Because I know the MI8s start with like 30% fuel.
Okay.
But I haven't flown the Huey in here, so yeah, let's take a look. I'm a cheater, so I'm gonna auto start. But let's see, I don't even know where the fuel gauge is. Oh, yeah, well, we gotta wait before we get power.
We can call the mechanic out right now.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Alright, sorry guys.
There we go.
We're flying with Casmo. He's a...
Of course, I can't see it because...
retired...
yeah, I guess it did start with 100%. Yeah, that's not good.
Kiowa Apache pilot.
Let's just go to 40.
Yeah, we took a lot of fuel.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I'll talk to... Seal...
Tell him he set me up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having a hard time.
It's not my fault. It was your fault.
Yeah. He said he's unable to comply. I think it's probably because we're starting the engine. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because I was too heavy. So I was pushing it into redline to try to keep us.
So
in
what
a
do
hover.
you fly? What kind of aircraft are you flying?
The Scarebus 320.
A Scarebus.
Yeah. I play with my little side stick.
That's cool. It says refueling complete.
All right.
Well, we'll see.
Oh man, we're wobbling all over the place.
Yeah, I know.
Is this normal?
Shouldn't be. No. you wouldn't want this.
Right.
You get a little ground resonance going.
I'd be a little scared.
There we go.
All right, the fuel gauge looks good this time.
Okay. All right. I haven't flown the Huey in quite a while, so it's possible that I will wreck. All right.
It's all right. Show's on you right now.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull up the closest SAR mission. So same place.
We gotta go pick our bodies up that we just.
Yeah,
crashed.
there's 4. It says 4 units there now, so there's plenty of dudes to pick up.
Do I need to get a longer rope?
Yeah, if you want to set it to, I still set it to 60. I think that would have been good. I think we probably just got a little low and probably the tail or something clipped a tree.
Okay.
But we'll see.
We got a 60-meter rope.
All right.
So anyway, sorry. We're flying with Casmo here. He's
Do you normally fly with force trim on? I didn't even think to look.
I did.
You do. Okay.
Is that a bad thing?
I wouldn't hover in it.
Oh, I disabled it when I was in the hover.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But when I fly with it, I always
I
engage
got
it.
you. Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah, and like in the 58s, we literally only used it when we were on the ground to maintain control of the rotor. Just to keep you from accidentally dipping it down and hitting somebody, loading up rockets or something.
Yeah, that would be good.
But we never flew with it. I mean, you may get those weirdos who probably did every now and then, but I never did. In the Apache, you always had it. Like, you couldn't turn it off, really. It was kind of like flying the K-50, where you've always got some sort of hold modes on.
So
All
which...
right, I think we're good.
We still got a DC generator.
Oh, we're still waiting.
Caution.
Okay.
That's weird. I don't know if you have that, but I have it.
On the dash?
Yeah, on the center pedestal, it says DC generator.
No, I don't see anything.
Okay.
No, yeah, it's out.
I mean,
so.
we can write it off.
Yeah, that's right. Could not replicate that. All right. All right. Well,
It's clear left.
all right. Let's see if I can get us off the ground.
Desync. Yeah, shows how to do a real helicopter takeoff here.
Lord. All right. Well, we'll do it into the wind. Tail's coming left. Nose coming right. And I mean, something like the Huey, all this wobbling around, that's pretty natural. You don't have stability control, so.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a little bit of wallowing. All right, so whatever, we're into the wind. Bring in some power, nosing it over. And we're looking to pass through ETL. There's that shake. Continue to climb over the trees. I'm gonna take a little bit of collective out now.
Yeah, that was perfect. I felt like I was in Nam.
That's right. Hit the fortunate sun button quick. All right. So
How often do you guys reference something from Nam, or do you not do that?
Yeah, not really. You probably get a lot of Firebird jokes. So like when I was a Kiowa guy going through the Apache course, I mean, it was a constant. Hey, when do we learn how to wear panties on our head? Shit like that.
Nice.
But
What's going on, Mike?
all right, I think we're on
Grey
the other
Wolf's
side
good
of
to
that
see you.
mountain, so I'm just gonna cheat over to the right side of it.
Roger.
And, just go ahead and have a little bit of a climb here, just 'cause I know we got to get up some. And
Yeah, this thing it feels like it's flying a lot better than I was flying it.
you're fine. Yeah, I don't even mess with force trim. I might let other trim there. Let's see. Sheesh.
So your YouTube channel's growing pretty good.
Yeah, it's been a good year.
You're almost about to surpass me, man. I've been doing it for like 3 years.
Uh-oh. Well, haven't been doing anything. You've just
No, I post like once every 3 months.
Yeah.
Once a quarter.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of at that point where I'm sure you were too. It's just like, okay, now what? Like, I don't know what else to post. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm just waiting for the Hind to drop and the Apache. Then I'll have some stuff. But I don't like doing tutorials. Because I'm always just so worried about just some rando flying in like, well, actually the DC generator has to, you know, like I don't have time.
You get those a lot.
Oh yeah, and I just try to avoid it.
Actually.
Yep. So.
No, I hear you.
Yeah, I've been getting a little bit more into the streaming. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I enjoy streaming more.
Yeah.
So I always say I'm gonna make a video, but then I'm like, I'd rather just stream and have fun.
Yeah, it's a lot less stress.
Because it's one thing to like do it live, and then also it's another thing to like edit it to make it look like you know what you're doing. Like if you do it live, you know, it makes you feel like you know what you're doing. Because like you can edit things all the time if you try to make a YouTube video.
Well, and that's the thing that I've sort of like committed myself from the beginning, was like, I'm not going to try to look like I know what I'm doing all the time. Like I will show my failures and my screw ups, and that's why for streaming for me is fine. Like I will crash 10 times in a stream, it doesn't matter. You know, and if somebody wants to say, well, you're not a very good helicopter pilot, it's like, well, I've never crashed a real one, so
right. Well, it happens to me all the time, don't worry.
Yeah.
I get a lot of we crash somewhere and everyone's like, I can't believe you just did that, and it's like, well,
yep,
just having fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all it is.
Hey Mark, it's going good, man. Yeah, read the manual.
Yeah, I mean, streaming, short of just dealing with Streamlabs, is easy. I just feel like Streamlabs is always out to get me. Every time I go live, something's screwed up. It's like, well, I don't understand. This worked last time.
Yeah, you took a lot better approach than I did. I went all the way around. I took the scenic tour route.
Well, I only knew because we learned from your flight. Otherwise, I would have done the same thing.
All right, I'm looking for a crappy helicopter pilot and a good helicopter pilot down there.
Well, we'll see. Crash this bitch too. All right. So. Does the dashboard actually shake like that in real life? Yeah. So when you're going through effective transitional lift and you got transverse flow and all these different aerodynamic factors, basically the rotor system is passing through, in this case, going from very clean air to very, disturbed air, right? So it's beating the air up around us. And so, yeah, the aircraft will shake quite a bit and you'll get some different motions. And it's what you're looking for on takeoff, because that means that, that everything's going the way it should.
Interesting.
All right, so we're at 11 o'clock, 33.
Yeah, I'll do a better job here. 11 o'clock, 20 meters, 15, 12. There's 10.
The hardest part here is the altered planes of reference, right? Because you're looking at the mountain, and your body wants to adjust so that the horizon is flat, but it's not going to be flat because it's a fucking mountain. So
there you go, 5 seconds. Get in, Billy.
All right, so we got that guy. So again, there's like 4 dudes here.
All right.
So once we get one, it's gonna give us another. Now, the one thing that's very confusing, or can be very confusing, is depending on how close you are, it'll kind of prioritize the guy. And so when they're really close together, sometimes the 12 o'clock 20 meters thing will suddenly change to like 6 o'clock 50 meters, and you're like, holy shit.
Okay.
So it gets a little confusing. All right, so now he's telling us that we're too high. We're at 67 meters.
I think there's a tree right under me.
Oh, good. All right. Well, what we can do, and this is the beauty of the Huey, so for multi-crew, you can change the rope length. And that way I don't have to...
I can?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Go into the comms menu.
Okay.
And I think it's F5.
Oh, mine's not doing it. How'd you get into it last time?
Okay, so look above the armament control panel, where it's got the radio select.
Yep, got it.
And go to private.
Yeah, it's in private.
Okay. So now just hit your backspace. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, now it's working.
Yeah, exactly. It's really weird.
All right.
I think it's F5.
Do you want to do a 80 meter?
Yeah, do 80.
There we go.
All right, so we're just slightly too high now, but that's okay. I'm gonna bring it back down.
Hold on, Billy.
Coming. Oh man, lost it. All right, so he's back behind us a little bit. Still too high.
So is this like how close you would be if you're like in an Apache? Or would you be a little bit higher?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So, I mean, being at this altitude, yeah, there's nothing scary about this. I mean, we would have aircraft come back with branches stuck in them. You know, I mean, the aircraft are designed to take some of that damage.
No flying squirrels.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've certainly hit my share of birds flying down low. Man, I cannot keep it steady.
You want me to do a 100 meter?
No, you're fine. I'm talking and flying, and
Oh, sorry.
I'm not good at it.
I'll continue to ask questions while you're flying.
Yeah, that's good. You're like an instructor pilot.
So,
right?
tell me about a time.
Tell me about transverse flow.
Tell me how you got your mustache.
Damn it. I keep getting too high, and then when I correct, I drift forward.
It's alright. It's not our gas money.
Yeah, that's right.
You're doing a good job. What's going on, Bullet? Samurai? It's good to see you, man. What about Bob? How you doing? I'm flying with Enchandrian. Nice to see you.
That's bullshit.
I'm flying with
Sliding. And I got the
Casmo here.
Fucking boss. Ow.
Maybe this guy's just like really fat.
Yeah, I think he's like moving around.
Maybe he's like on a moose.
He's chasing the rope around. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna move forward and just fly for a second, because the thing is, you get really tense, right? So,
right.
And that doesn't help you. Oh, now it's giving me. If you get really tense, then you can just kind of screw up. So I'm just gonna relax for a second. I'm gonna do a quick pattern, and then come back around.
Can we brew you a cup of coffee?
Yeah, give me a snack. Give me some of those Biscoff cookies.
Oh, yeah. You must be flying on Delta a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Only
somebody brought they sell like Nutella type stuff, but it's that Biscoff stuff.
Nice.
In a jar. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Fat.
Yeah, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe my Huey landed on top of Billy, and he's stuck.
Dude, is the smoke gone? What the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe he doesn't want to be rescued anymore.
Yeah. Well, piss on him then. All right. Well, we'll go fly. I mean, it
says here 11 o'clock, 60 meters.
Yeah, whatever. You don't care enough to pop smoke. We don't care enough to care. So let's say we got it. We've rescued dudes. Bring up the comms menu again.
Got it.
And then what you're gonna do is hit F10 and then F3.
Okay.
Oh, there's smoke right off the nose there.
Oh shit, we got smoke.
We got more peoples. All right, well, we'll grab them then.
Unless it's a fire.
But you can you pull up the closest base, and so then you just got to fly back to the hospital and drop the guys off.
Awesome.
And that's what gives you credit. And so the server like keeps track of your stats, and it'll tell you, you know, how many times you've rescued people and how many crashes and how many landings and all that shit.
It's probably a bad thing, since I was on here 2 weeks ago and I didn't rescue anybody, but just died a lot.
Just created a lot of missions for other people.
Well, I dropped like 1,000 gallons of water.
Oh yeah.
It didn't seem to do anything though.
Yeah, I've only done it just a little bit, and I don't feel like I accomplished anything. Well, somebody was actually watched my video, and they told me you're dropping it in the wrong place. You've got to drop it on the other side of where I was dropping it. Maybe that would have mattered more. All right, so all right, we're still at 80 meters for the rope, I think. So, and the problem is with the 80 meter, why I always default to 60 is because I do kind of want to be close to the trees, because again, it gives me a reference. Because hovering in real life is easier than hovering in DCS, because you can feel it in your body.
Yeah, right.
You know the aircraft. Same thing with flying a fixed wing. You kind of know when things are about to happen just based on, your proprioceptive system. It's certainly the same for hovering. So unless you have some sort of visual reference, which is what I'm always looking for, and of course flying in the smoke is always super helpful.
Yeah, you're looking good. If you guys have questions in the chat, if you want me to ask Casmo here, ask away. Anything with Apache, Kiowa.
Oh god.
Hey, Pistol. Oh man, it's looking good, but I'm.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully it's not CS. I'll tell you what, why don't you change the rope again to 60?
Alright.
Because I don't think we're going to be 80. I'm going to try to tuck us into these trees.
60 meter rope.
Again, I'm fighting that desire for the horizon to look right and overcorrecting.
Yeah, fire dropping would be cool.
Just to the left there, that's gonna be pain. All right, we got him. Got him. Hold. Fuck!
Oh, we missed him.
Oh man, I could feel it. I knew I was drifting too far.
That was Charlie.
Right, I'm gonna bring my nose over because these trees are making me nervous.
Oh, that's scary looking.
Yeah. All right, let's get stable here.
No, we're on the search and rescue server.
I'm basically just
anybody can join
focusing
search and
on
rescue
that tree.
server.
I'm just trying to hold my position based on.
And Pistol, I don't think so. I saw you get shot down by a couple MiGs.
Alright, we got that guy.
How well does it penetrate? What are you talking about there,
1
Bill?
o'clock, 15 meters.
Nice pickup, nice pickup.
Alright, so he's close to this tree.
Alright, we got a question from the chat while you're concentrating.
Yeah, perfect.
Would you ever want to fly a Cobra, or have you had the opportunity to fly one?
Oh, I'd love to fly a Cobra. Talking like an old school Cobra or a modern, like what are they, Zulus now? I mean, I'd fly any Cobra, but I'd really love to play with the new ones. We got that guy.
Well, the Army doesn't have any more, right?
No, we got rid of Cobras back in the early 90s.
Oh, wow. I remember they were in Desert Storm.
Yeah, I think, I'm sure we had some in Desert Storm, and I'm sure the Marines were flying them in Desert Storm. So, on my podcast, I just interviewed a guy yesterday. He was a Little Bird pilot, but his first assignment was flying Cobras in the Army. He flew in Korea, and then he came back to the States, and I want to say he said 91, and they transitioned to Apaches.
Nice.
And that was right after Desert Storm. All right, am I too high? Okay, I'm too high.
Yeah, I think it was the Marines that had the Cobras. I remember watching a documentary on it.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Marines are good at taking old Army shit and making it better. All right, pick up. All right, so we have successfully picked up.
We got two homies.
Another one.
Actually,
yeah, well,
we got
grabbed
three.
Yeah, we grabbed 3 because I grabbed 2 real quick.
So does it actually add weight?
It should. I assume that it does. I feel like I've probably put in some collective, but I imagine if they've mapped it with the firefighting to add weight.
Yeah, because it definitely feels like you get heavy when you put on the water.
Yeah. All right, we'll swing around and see if we can grab this last guy.
Next question is, we got another smoke at our 12 o'clock maybe? Or is that just,
I think it's the first group. I think they re-popped smoke
just faded away again.
Yeah.
Interesting. Next question is, pit visibility, cockpit visibility between the Cobra and the Apache. I don't know if you ever sat in the Cobra.
Yeah, I've never sat in a Cobra, so I couldn't speak to that. Visibility in the Apache's not terrible. It's certainly better than the Ka-50. The challenge with the Apache is the ability to look down, because you've got these large avionics bays that stick out of the side.
Right.
called the EFABs, and so it's hard to look down, but at the same time you don't really need to all that much, because when you land, what you can use is the iHads, the eyepiece. So if anybody's watched Firebirds, they know exactly what I'm talking about. You basically got the sensor on the nose that you can pump into your right eye, and so you can. It's like your eye is sitting on the nose of the aircraft, so it feels like your eye is 10 feet in front of you and 3 feet down.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, which is a little awkward the first time. And then, but you can look, pretty much straight down, and kind of use it as a window.
That's kind of cool though.
Yeah, it's.
I'm sure it takes some time to get used to.
Yeah, well, they really throw you in crash course. We do something called the bag, where they put you in the aircraft and they put you in the back seat, and the instructor pilot sits in the front seat, and they cover all the windows completely blacked out. All right, we got that guy. Or we did get that guy, and then I guess we missed.
Got 5 seconds.
Shit. I think it got down to 1, and I pulled away.
Because we're too far.
Yeah, I keep screwing up.
You should add like a little beeping noise.
Yeah.
Maybe that would get annoying though.
Yeah. This is bullshit. I'm inside 8 meters. Come on. Get on the... Too low. See, that's what happens.
Oh, we're too low.
Yeah, I'm in the zone now.
It's freaking... You're in the auto zone?
Yeah, that's it. Get in the zone. Alright. Okay, we're good. Alright. We're going to put in a little bit of power. We're going to pass through ETL. I can hear the rotor drooping a little bit, so I'm going to ease up on the collective. Just kind of manage with the cyclic. And then once we get into that clean air, we can pull some power out of the collective. The worst situation for a helicopter is a high hover out of ground effect. That is where the helicopter is going to be straining the most, because you're just trying to push so much air. Then, if you get below, basically a rotor disc and a half distance is considered out of ground effect. And then anything below that, you start getting into ground effect. And again, same thing with a fixed wing aircraft. Once you get low enough, you're going to get in ground effect, and for us, the rotor system is going to become more efficient. But once you get into forward air, I mean, typically as soon as I pass through ETL and I've got a good climb, I'll take some collective out, and I'm just using the cyclic to continue my climb.
Okay.
Because I just don't need as much power as I had before. So at this point, we're going to hit the F3 menu like we started, and then find the closest base, which is where we came from. So I'm just going to get around this hill here.
121.
Yeah, okay.
Another question: Blue Thunder or Airwolf?
Ooh, man, I respect that question, because that's a mature question. Because both are excellent. I don't know. Blue Thunder, I think, just because it's more realistic. Because the problem with Airwolf, and I love Airwolf, but I think there's probably some aerodynamic issues with that aircraft. That aircraft actually crashed in real life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so after the show was done, that particular airframe became like an aeromedical aircraft in Europe, and it was involved in a crash.
Wow, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, it's screwed up too. Like, we'd get new pilots, and you would ask them questions like that, and they were like, "What's Airwolf?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, get out of town. You don't belong here."
So what's it called when you're a retreating blade stall? What's that?
Yeah, so retreating blade stall is the bane of the existence of why helicopters can't go fast. Which is why I think Airwolf would probably have some problems, because it had that like jet powered, engines and stuff. But right. So retreating blade stall is, if you picture, our blades are coming from the right side, passing to the front, and then going back to the left.
Right.
The blades on the right are creating more lift than the blades on the left. There comes a point where the blades on the left are creating so little lift that the right side is just going to overwhelm it. And I'm kind of dumbing that down. There's a little bit more science to it involved, but essentially that's what's happening, is you're not creating any lift on one side and you're creating way too much lift on the other. So the aircraft will start to make all kind of crazy noises and vibrations and stuff, and if you continue to press it, then you can basically flip the aircraft over, and it's not good.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you breaking it down, Barney style for me.
Yeah, that's the only style I know, so. But good question.
Yeah, we got all sorts of questions coming in.
To go back to the visibility question, the Apache is funky because the pilot sits in the back, and I think that's kind of weird for people, but you sit above, the front seater, so you can see pretty well forward. But, an aircraft like the Apache, you're not really meant to visually see stuff in the fight. That's what all the sensors and stuff are doing for you. Because both guys can pump information into their eye from the TADs and the PINVIS, which are the sensors up at the front. So.
Is it pretty quiet in the Apache?
Yeah, I mean it's not terrible. I mean, of course, we wear double ear protection, so you've got your helmet, which has got the earmuffs, and then we've got these things called CEPs. I can't remember what they stand for, but they're essentially like a foamy earbud with a radio, with a speaker inside of them, and then the cables run out, and you just kind of stick them in your ear, and the cables dangle. You put your helmet on, and then you plug those into a little jack on the back of your helmet, so it pumps the radio straight into your ear, but you've got double ear protection from all the other noise.
Okay.
So I mean, if you take all that shit off, yeah, you're gonna go deaf eventually.
Right.
Helicopters are loud.
Samurai's got all these questions. He says, "Do you prefer the front or back seat?"
It depends on what we're doing. It's kind of the same question in a Kiowa, which seat do you prefer, the left or the right? I was always like, if it was a day flight, I liked to be in the back seat or the right seat in the Kiowa, because that was the primary pilot seat, so you're just wiggling the stick. If it was night, or if it was like a deliberate operation, meaning we were like working with some ground units, like we knew we were going to do like a raid or something like that, I like to sit in the front seat or the left seat, because those are the guys who are handling all the mission tasks, working the targeting and shooting the laser, and guiding missiles in if you need to shoot them and stuff like that, doing all the coordination. So.
Nice. So you guys shoot lasers?
Oh yeah, lasers. Yep, sharks and lasers. Yeah, so you'll have the laser rangefinder designator to guide missiles in or to spot targets. So the cool thing with the Apache, and I wish we'd had it in the Kiowa, is it has a laser spot tracker. So for instance, if we had an aircraft ahead of us right now, he could, he would have a discrete laser code, and we would have one as well. So let's say he was 1178 and we were 1179. I would have my laser spot tracker set up to pick up his laser spot, and he would have his set up to pick up mine. So if he found the target and said, "Hey, I got a target at 12 o'clock, I'm gonna laser for you," I would just turn on my spot tracker, and the TADS bucket is just gonna start looking, right? It's just kind of moving around looking for this laser spot. Well, as soon as he squirts it, it's gonna see that code and then lock onto that, and then I'll say, "Okay, I got it. I'm tracking." And then he turns off his laser, I turn off my spot tracker, and now I'm looking at what he's looking at. So it's
interesting.
Super helpful.
Yeah.
Here's the hospital at our 11 o'clock. You see the red vehicles and all that stuff down there? There's like a large building.
Oh,
yeah. Now 10 o'clock. So if you look further at our 10 o'clock, there's a single green pad. It's at our 9 o'clock now.
Oh, yeah, visual.
So that's the actual hospital pad.
All right, good thing we got a doctor in the chat.
Oh gosh.
He'll be waiting.
All right, so looks like it says winds are 132. I'll circle around, and I will most likely crash. I cannot land a Huey. The problem I have with the Huey is it decelerates way too fast, below 40 knots. Like it just wants to stop.
I need 50 cc.
There doesn't seem to be any momentum to it, so I always have trouble with it.
So is this usually what you do, is you circle it a couple times?
Yeah, that's, and I'm just doing that so I can gently bring it down in altitude and airspeed. But this idea that helicopters kind of just come to a hover and come straight down to land is not true. You know, we try to come in with some forward momentum. It's just easier to control the aircraft.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, trying to just hover is, it's not hard, but it's hard when you're hovering above something and trying to come straight down.
I could imagine, yes.
And I think it's probably true for fixed wing. I know, like, when I flew Cessnas, like, whenever I came into an airfield and I was already, like, lined up on the runway, I always had a hard time figuring out where I should start slowing down and descending and stuff. You know, unless you're doing an instrument approach. But if you're just doing a VFR, like, it's so much easier to enter a traffic pattern, because then you have an understanding of, okay, I should start decelerating here, I should start descending here.
That's the truth, though, because most unstable approaches in the airlines are in VFR, clear in a million days.
Yeah.
Oh, this is looking good.
So I've sort of purposely kicked it out of trim. You don't have to land with your nose pointing directly. Sort of the standard, I'm gonna leave it here, but the standard is, you know, below 50 feet is where you want to have lane alignment. So I'm a little bit off. This is gonna be ugly. But you can kick it out of trim so that you can see.
Man, that was perfect, man.
It was a little too vertical. But I was nervous. I didn't want to crash.
Don't be nervous.
All right, so now it tells us everybody's getting off, so we're good to go. So now we're empty and.
There, I'll open the doors so I can get off.
Yeah, get off my aircraft.
You know, my immersion.
Yeah.
All right, everybody's off.
So we're gonna clear left, right, and above.
Clear.
Power.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That was fun.
Bullet wants to know why there's no buildings on fire. He's a 787 pilot.
Oh. Should there be buildings on fire?
Well, he said this is DCS. Why aren't the buildings on fire?
No. We could run into one. Yeah. So that's the search and rescue function. Like I said, I think for just learning how to fly a helicopter, it's great, because the hovering, I mean, you got to be dead balls on.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Challenging, and it's a balancing act between a visual reference and then looking at those numbers. And it's funny because it made me think about flying Apaches. The other day I was thinking about it, because when you're flying an Apache, you get that eyepiece, and there's just a ton of information that's getting pumped into your eye. And I put out a video a couple of weeks ago. If guys are wondering what I'm talking about, you can check it out there. But you got a lot of information getting pumped into your eyeball, and it's real easy to just start looking at that information and forgetting that you're still flying a helicopter and just look past it. And so I found myself staring a little bit at this information on the server telling me, oh, you got to come at 50 feet to the left and all this other stuff.
Right.
And just not realizing that, well, shit, I need to just look at this tree right here and just give myself a stable hover and then maneuver based off that. So it's your cross check, right? I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you gotta
scan.
you can't just look at your altimeter, right? You got to look at your altimeter, and you got to look at your heading, and you got to look at the trim. And you got to get that good cross check going. So
yeah, you always got to be scanning.
Yep, it's good pilot shit.
You can always tell in the like the older captains in the airlines, like their scan is like not on point anymore.
Oh, really?
Because they're so used to automation.
Yeah.
So I always try to kick everything off, like the autopilot, and at least once, like a trip, I always try to kick the auto throttle off, just to keep it, because I mean, if it fails one day,
right,
you're gonna have to know how to use it.
No, it's absolutely spot on. I mean, I think that's across the board. You've got to be prepared for when all those widgets stop working. That's why, like, the older guys, we were trying to tell the younger kids, because the Apache's got a lot of stuff that'll keep it really stable, and we were like, hey, a lot of this stuff is based off of GPS, and that a lot of bad guys can jam GPS now. Like, you need to be prepared for this aircraft not flying the way that you're used to it flying.
Right.
In case that happens. So, yeah, it's real easy to sit back on your laurels with, all these hold modes and shit turning for you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that would be really nice to have.
Yeah, end of the day, you just gotta fly it. I mean, Apache's not too much, like it won't make turns and stuff for you. It'll, you know, you can trim it out and put on the hold modes, and short of hitting some pretty rough air or something like that, you know, you're gonna maintain your airspeed, you're gonna maintain your altitude. I think the Blackhawks, and I'm pretty sure the Chinooks have the flight directors now. So I mean, that thing will, you know, it'll turn and descend and do all this crap for you. In fact, I know the Chinooks have like an auto land feature where,
What?
yeah. So, and this is handy because, you know, the one thing that I'm happy that I'm not a Blackhawk Chinook guy is I never really had to practice landing in the dust all that much. You know, like we'd still do it, but at the end of the day, I know I don't really have to do it. But, you know, these guys, that's what they have to do, right? To drop dudes off or pick dudes up and stuff. But for the Chinooks, they very wisely gave them the system, and I think it basically automatically comes to a hover at like 200 feet, and it just descends straight down.
Wow.
Because I mean, they call it Big Windy for a reason. I mean, when you're trying to bring one of those in to a dust, I mean, I've had my entire fob dusted out because some Chinooks landed, and just, you know, the Afghan dirt is just everywhere. But yeah, they've got those kind of capabilities, which is good. I knew some SAS guys, some Australian SAS guys, and they were telling me a story about how one time one of them got wounded fairly bad. He was on a stretcher, and they called in the medevac, and the Blackhawks come in. And they said this Blackhawk came in, and he browned out in the dust cloud. And they said all they heard was this, you know, this wreckage sound, and shit was flying out of the dust cloud. And you saw these dudes running out of the dust, and here's this dude on a stretcher, like hobbling out of the dust cloud, running away.
Oh my God. Completely covered in sand.
Yeah, this Blackhawk had balled it up. But it's easy to do. So.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Let's see, what else can we do while we're just flying around? So, I mean, we can talk about terrain flight if you want.
Let's do it.
So, you know, there's varying degrees, and I didn't study beforehand, so I'll probably screw some of these numbers up. But you know, you've got terrain flight. So you've got low level, contour, and NOE. So right now we're probably low level. So actually we're a little bit high because I'm looking at the radar altimeter. So we're going to come down about 200 feet. I don't think this radar altimeter is accurate.
Yeah, it looks like we're lower than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, unless we're like in Washington State, see some big ass trees. But like 200 feet is considered low level. And this is what you would use kind of just generally, you know, in the rear area. So now we get a little bit closer to the enemy, and we're gonna go into contour. And I would call where we're at right now contour. I think that altimeter is off. And so we're just following the contours of the Earth. You know, if there's slight rises, we're gonna kind of maintain our position over those rises, and then, you know, once you're getting into the shit, then you're getting down to NOE or nap of the Earth, and this is where, you know, you're basing everything off of the terrain that's right here. So we're gonna get down close to the trees. You know, this is the part where guys maybe tap the tail against some trees, or some branches hit the skids. You know, whatever the case may be. It's kind of tough with this terrain because there's really nothing to react to here, but we're just going to get as low as we can to the trees, and now we're just trying to avoid detection, you know, radar and all that bullshit.
Nice.
So,
I like this.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I flew a JTAC one time as an Air Force kid, and in fact, it was here at Fort Bragg. We were after a deployment. We did some incentive rides with these guys, and I'm down low like this in the OH-58. We flew without our doors on, so the wind is just whipping in, you know, and everything. And we're going all of 90 knots above the trees. And this kid's just looking out the window and looking out the door, and he's having a great time. And he says, "Man, this is so much cooler than that time I rode an F-16."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Hell yeah, it is." You know? But I think what he was basically reacting to is the fact that, yeah, we're only going 90 knots, but we're right on top of the trees. And if this was real life, I'd get lower because I'd feel more comfortable. Like DCS, I have no sense of how low I am right now.
Right.
Maybe if I was in VR, it'd be different. But speed is relative, right? So when you're down that low and you're going 90 knots, you know, 100 miles an hour, and you're skipping over the trees, you know, it feels pretty impressive. Versus you're at 400, 500 knots, but you're at 15,000 feet. You know, there's just no context as to what your speed is. So
Yeah, that's the big thing for like in Sims. Like you have no sense of depth perception unless you have VR.
Yeah.
But then also the feeling. You don't have the feeling.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I was doing some flying with Mover the other day, and we were talking, and he said the same thing about dogfighting. He was like, yeah, he's like, I suck at dogfighting in DCS because I don't have any of the physical cues that I'm used to. You know, my G suit's not inflating. I'm not blacking out a little bit, you know, when I pull too hard, and you know, all these things. And it's true for the helicopter side too. I suck at hovering in DCS because I'm so used to feeling the aircraft move. It's not based off your eyes, it's based off your ass. You feel the aircraft's about to dip before it dips, and you feel it sliding left before your eyes register that it's sliding left.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like wind, you know, coming into land with a plane. You know, you can feel it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
But in DCS, you don't feel it, so it just happens, and you're like, okay.
Yep. Well, it's so funny. Like I remember flying when I was getting my private license. You know, flying this little Cessna 172, and my instructor pilot, God bless him, you know, he only had. It was funny. Our first flight, I was like, "Hey, how many hours do you have?" And he's like, "Oh, I got 500." And he says, "How many do you have?" I'm like 2,000. And so, but we're flying along, and one day we went into this other airport, and I could just tell that the aircraft, you know, we were on short final, and I could just tell that the aircraft was about to just drop a little bit, right? And so I put in some power and anticipated that drop and smoothed it out, and we landed. And when we got done, he told me, he's like, you know, you're doing great because, you know, like you felt that the aircraft was about to droop. And what's so weird is, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it's hard to describe that to people because I can't even fully understand it. Like, how do we know the aircraft is about to do something when it hasn't done it yet, right? Yeah. And it's all just that feeling that you can't really explain to someone, and you certainly can't replicate it. It's something that you pick up over time.
Right, it's experience.
Yep. Yeah, but it's all
totally the truth, though.
Yeah. All right, so whatever, we've been doing this for a while. So let's say that we were, you know, a gunship or something. Oh, we got another guy here.
Oh, is he popping smoke?
Yeah, it says he is at 1 o'clock.
We're not supposed to be. We're not on that mission. We're talking.
Yeah, we're talking here. You just have to wait. So let's say that, you know, we think that there's bad guys on the other side of this hill. The other thing that helicopters do is, you know, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. There's no reason to rush up there and do anything crazy. So we're going to start slowing down. And, you know, the beauty of a Kiowa is we've got that mass-mounted sight, so we don't even have to expose the aircraft. We can just poke the sight up over top of the trees and the hills.
Right.
The Apache, everything's on the nose, so you kind of have to expose yourself, unless you have a fire control radar. So that's the big cheese wheel-looking thing that you'll see on top of Apaches. That's a radar.
Okay.
And not every Apache has those. Not every longbow has a FCR. You'll have like one for every 4 aircraft. But let's say that we had one of those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to unmask only what we need to unmask from the aircraft. I'm kind of drifting here. I think the wind's actually got me. But you'll notice I'm keeping my distance from the terrain, right? I'm not like tucked in real close to it.
Right.
Because again, let's say suddenly we start getting shot at, you know, we've got to like get out of here. So I need room to maneuver. I'm probably gonna crash this, but you know, I'm dumping the collective a little bit and nosing it over to get us some speed so we can get out of there. I can't do that if I'm tucked up 10 feet away from a tree,
right,
or a hill. So that's a thing that, you know, young guys kind of screw up because it's sort of against your sort of natural thoughts, right? If you were playing a first-person shooter, you wouldn't do that, right? You would stand right by the wall, you know.
Right. Full
so
Chad mode.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels more natural, and I still find myself doing it all the time when I fly the K50. But in reality, you definitely want to give yourself some space so that you can react to it. And again, with a dual-engine aircraft, if you lose an engine, you can still fly away. You probably can't hover. But you can, as long as you can nose that thing over and pick up some airspeed, you can get out of that situation and start flying normally. Because like I said earlier, hovering is the big monster that takes away all your energy. You know, you're probably hovering, you know, in the 90% of your torque. Whereas if you get it up into forward flight, well, you're probably down in the 70s.
Right.
You know, just kind of depending on the situation. So you've got a lot more margin of error to play with.
Is the so the FCR on the Apache is I don't know if you can tell us or not, but does that have, it's mainly air to ground, but does it have an air to air capability too if you need it?
Yep. Yeah, you can pick up air targets. It's got a radar or a ground radar mapping, so you know you can sort of use it to help you if you have a hard, you know, at night or something. You can map out the terrain in front of you. It does all kind of neat stuff, but the problem is, like most military gear, it does a lot of neat stuff on paper.
Of course.
You know, and it never works the way it's described. So you'll go into the simulators and use that crap, and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And then you go out to the real forest, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not as amazing. But you know, you got to think about the context that a lot of these things were made to do. There's a lot of
we
smoke
got
down there.
there's some smoke down there.
Yeah, a ton of it.
Or a fire.
Yeah, or fire. But if you think about it, like, what was that stuff really designed to do? Well, it was designed for when the Russian horde is going to be crossing, you know, the Fulda Gap. I don't need to be super precise, and I don't need to differentiate cars from tanks at that point. You know, the radar is going to pick up there's a large group of tanks out there. That's good enough for me. So a lot of the stuff, you know, we're kind of using it in a situation that is not what it's made for in a counterinsurgency type fight. But yeah, the FCR is really neat when it does work, and when you integrate it with the systems, because, you know, let's say that we had a flight of 4 Apaches right now, and you know, we had the FCR. The 4 of us could line up behind one of these hills. You and I could just pop up, do a sweep with the radar. It's going to automatically select, you know, I can't remember the number, some astronomical number. It's going to target like 16 of the biggest threats that it classified as the biggest threats. And then it's going to prioritize those targets. And if you do some setup before that, you can squirt all that information to the other aircraft. So they don't need an FCR, they're just using yours. So like, for instance, and it's basically like you draw a box on the map inside the aircraft. You draw a box, you say, okay, this is what we're going to scan. You can even tell the radar, like, hey, I don't want to scan this little box. So like, let's say we know there's a school, you know, or something. We can draw a little box around the school, and the radar won't even sweep that part. Or if it detects something, it'll ignore it, basically.
Wow.
And so, but we can then differentiate inside that big box and say, okay, this is aircraft number 1's box, this is aircraft number 2's box. And as it sweeps that stuff, it'll target, prioritize inside those boxes, and then it squirts out all that information. So if I'm the number 1 aircraft and I get targets from the FCR bird, that stuff's ready to go, and it just pumps right into the missiles, and I just start shooting missiles off.
Wow. So if you pop up and it starts scanning, it automatically knows like what tanks are, I guess, by shape or something?
Yeah, I can't even remember if I even knew how it did it, but it can classify, you know, and obviously, like anything else, it can misidentify and stuff, but it'll classify things basically into what it thinks are tanks, wheeled vehicles, aircraft, air defense. I think there's something else, but it'll classify as best as it can, and then, like I said, it'll prioritize. And so as the aircraft, I mean, as soon as you get that prioritization, you basically just start pushing off missiles off the rail, and it's squirting that information into each missile. It says, okay, you're number 1, you're going to this guy. Number 2, you're going to this guy, and then you're done. I mean, you don't even need to do anything.
Wow. And then they can carry 8 Hellfires, right?
It can carry 16.
Oh, 16. Oh, wow.
I mean, you're not taking off with a lot of gas, you know. But yeah, you can carry 16. We typically carry 2 Hellfire racks, which could carry 4 missiles each, and then a 2 17-shot rocket pods.
Jeez.
and those wouldn't be full. I mean, in a coin environment, a lot of times the only thing that you really needed was a lot of gas and a good radio. So I want to say on my last trip, the one deployment I did as an Apache guy, you know, we probably flew with like 4 or 5 missiles on board. Probably, maybe we had a full pod. I don't even remember anymore. And then the pods are cool because you can have zones. So like, you know, you've got 17 holes that can hold a rocket, but they're broken up into 3 different zones. So you could have like zone A, you could have high explosive. Zone B, you could put flechettes. Zone C, you could put illumination rockets, or, you know, white phosphorus or something like that. So you can kind of switch it up a little bit. And then the missiles, you know, there's a variety of Hellfires that you could use. Most of them are laser guided, but you do have the millimeter wave missiles, which are the ones that kind of work with the FCR. So they have their own kind of little radar in there. So basically the FCR finds targets, says, hey missile, go to this spot, that's where your target is. You shoot that missile and it's going to go look for that target, which can be problematic because if it gets there and the target's moved and something else, like a school bus shows up, you know, it may pick up that school bus. So yeah, so, you know, again, what were these designed for? Well, it was designed where there wasn't going to be school buses, right? There's going to be a bunch of Soviet tanks crossing the wire. So you wouldn't shoot something like that in that technique in Iraq or Afghanistan unless you were very, very, very certain that was all that's there.
Put some lighting on the gauges there for you.
Yeah, you're good. Good co-pilot.
No, that's good. So we have another question. They said, what setup are you running? Like, what are you like, stick and throttle? What are you using?
Yeah, so I have a VKB Gunfighter 3, I think, and I just got it a couple months ago. My throttle is a old Thrustmaster T16 million, whatever. HOTAS throttle, and then I've got the VKB pedals. So that's what I've got.
Nice. And then let's see here. What is your favorite helo, and why is it the little bird?
Oh Jesus! Get out of here with that little bird shit. So I'm scarred for life from little birds because I had a boss who was a little bird guy, and they're a different world, they're a different breed, and they do things differently. You know, again, for my podcast, I just interviewed a guy who actually worked with that same boss that I had. We were talking shit about him.
Naturally.
Yeah, naturally. But I mean, that's a neat aircraft, but I think people sometimes overplay it. It's not the aircraft that's good, it's the pilots. There's nothing special about the little bird. You know, they crammed a lot of hate into that little thing. But you know, it doesn't even have hydraulics.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know a few guys that have gone over there and flown either the guns or the lift, and they're like, yeah, it's a varsity aircraft. You know, it's not something that you would want to just put a brand new guy in and start flying. But the pilots over there are what make that good, because they don't have to deal with like the standard military bullshit. Like, they're training all the time. Like, this guy I was talking to yesterday, he's like, yeah, you know, we'd go to the range to shoot rockets and gun, like, you know, 2-3 times a week. I'm like, we do that shit twice a year. So of course they're very good at what they do. I mean, the little bird is sure, it's cool looking. I'd love to go fly one and shoot one, but you know, it's not my favorite. You know, your favorite aircraft is the first one that you flew.
Yeah, always.
Operationally, right? And so, for me, the Kiowa is always going to be my first love. But I like the Apache too. It had a lot of great features.
And then we also got another question here. It says, during your deployment overseas, did you ever take off from an amphibious carrier, or was everything transported by C-5s or C-17s?
Oh yeah, never. So deployments. Typically what you would do, so like when my first deployment, we left here at Fort Bragg, we flew all the aircraft down to the port of Charleston, and they basically like shrink wrapped the aircraft. and we fold them up and they stick them on the boat, and then they just ship them over there. As the deployments continued, what you would kind of do is this sort of like you would take half your birds and you'd fall in on half of the birds that the unit that's there is leaving, you know, and so you'd kind of rotate through, and so you'd have birds that have been there for a couple of years. On my last deployment, when I flew Apaches, all the Apaches that we gave away all of our Apaches to another division. We flew over to Iraq and we fell in on the birds that were already there, and these were some dirty birds. They had been there for years and years and years. They were like Frankenstein Echo models that had been like upgraded in the field type thing. They were noisy and loud. I remember the first time I took off in one, I couldn't even hear the tower because like the aircraft was just growling. You know, it was like, I was like, Jesus Christ. So they were dirty birds.
Not angry birds?
Yeah, not angry birds. They were sometimes angry. So what was cool about the Kiowa, and the Little Bird does the same thing, is here at Bragg, when I was in the 82nd, you know, the 82nd Airborne is you know, America's 911, right? So that's, if something happens somewhere, that's the first division that generally gets the phone call and starts sending people out. Short of the special operations, I got it, that's a whole different world. But we would always have a brigade of the 82nd that was on what they used to call DRB, I think it was Division Ready Brigade, and now it's got some other name. But and then we would have a troop of Kiowa, so that's 10 aircraft, as a slice for that DRB. So if suddenly the balloon went up somewhere and that brigade got called, we knew that whichever troop was on rotation, they were the guys that were going in. And I think it was like a 45-day window where like you couldn't take leave, you couldn't drink, you were always on call. You had to have your bags packed, and if somebody called you on the phone and gave you the code word, you had to get into the hangar and get loaded up. And so the Kiowa could be folded up in such a way that we could put 2 of them in the back of the C-130, or you could put, I want to say 8 in the back of a C-17. And we would practice this because the 82nd was, you know, one of their big things was seizing airfields. So they would jump in to seize the airfield, and then we would come in on the C-130, and the C-130 would land, we'd push the aircraft out the back, unfold the blades and pop the guns in place and everything, and then take off. And the standard was like 15-20 minutes from the time the C-130 stopped to the time that you would be taking off, and now you're in the fight. So that's something we practiced. You know, thankfully we never had to do it in real life.
Yeah, 45 days sober sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, that was also terrible.
We got a 20-minute fuel warning.
Yeah, I figured we were getting low on gas, so let's go back to the airfield.
I'm doing my daily observation flight here.
Got your whiz wheel out.
Yeah, I got it. I'm doing the wind chart right now.
But to go back to that question, so right now my old squadron from here at Bragg is now an Apache squadron. They are deployed. I think they're still deployed. You know, they deployed in response to the whole Iran shooting missiles and stuff. They have aircraft operating off of Navy platforms. So the Navy has these like sea bases that they plop down. They're basically like a little oil rig looking thing, I guess. But they've got Apaches that are flying off of those right now. So yeah, so it used to be a thing, particularly here at Bragg, in the 82nd. Like, I think we got to do cooler stuff than just about any other division, just because we did have that kind of unique mission set that we had to worry about. But flying off of ships and stuff was certainly a thing. But then when Iraq and Afghanistan kicked off, like, you know, there was no need to do any of that crap. So you basically just focused on urban operations and that kind of stuff. It'd be cool. I'd love to fly off a ship.
Is the this mission, does it reset, like, or is it like nighttime as well?
I don't know if it does night. I think it's a 6-hour server, and so then it rotates and it has different weather conditions. Like I did one where it was thunderstorm. I know it does snowstorms, but I don't know if it goes into the night.
Okay.
We should have completely different arrows.
I tried to turn on the landing light, but I don't have. It doesn't allow me to do landing lights.
Oh, really? No. See, this is a pretty steep approach, and in real life I'd be able to land like this. In DCS, I'm probably gonna crash. I'm just gonna do a go around.
It's all good.
Because VRS, like, oh my god, DCS and VRS, like, it is. They have a sick fascination with vortex ring state. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not something that we worry about that much.
In the MI8, I always get scared because
Yeah.
when you get slow, it shakes really bad, and I always feel like I'm about to crash the dang thing.
Yeah. So that shaking again is natural. In fact, you'll hear helicopters guys say, you know, ride the shutter, and that's what they're talking about. Is you're kind of at that point where the ETL and transverse flow and all this stuff is happening, and you're right at the cusp of getting into that dirty air, but you're still kind of in that clean air. You want to ride the shutter in as you make your approach. But yeah, in the MI8 it seems very extreme, and it sounds like the aircraft's coming apart. So yeah, it's a little freaky. And and once you're in that point too, it is very easy to get into vortex ring state.
Gotcha.
Right.
You got some traffic landing at your 1 o'clock there. I turn on our flashies.
Okay.
I said, "Hey, we're landing."
This is still a steep approach, but I think we're gonna survive. So we're below 50 feet. We got lane alignment.
Nice.
One thing I've learned with the Huey is if you drop the as soon as you touch down, if you bring the collective down, you typically screw the rotor up, and it goes flying off like a frisbee. So, so I've learned to not do that. Like, I touch down and I just lower the collective enough where I know I'm not going to fly, and then I bring it down once it's stable. Because yeah, landing this thing is killing me. Yeah.
No, that was cool, man.
What else? Any other questions?
Oh, I'm sure we got tons of questions. I just been
Okay.
So they're wondering if you've flown an X-Plane 11.
I never have. No, never have.
Have you flown any Russian helicopters?
Like in real life?
Mm-hmm.
No, I almost did. I almost got assigned to fly Mi-17s in Afghanistan because we actually started flying those with the Afghan army. But yeah, it fell through. Thankfully, I didn't really want to do it. I mean, it would have been cool, but I think the coolness would have worn off after about a month.
Right.
And I still had 11 months to go. So.
Was it like a blue cockpit, or did it have like English subtitles?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. What is their fascination with the blue? It's just gross.
Supposedly, it's supposed to be easier on the eyes. At least that's what I was told.
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, I know like blue lighting, like you see the old movies, they have like the submarines with the red lights, and then I guess they don't do that anymore because the blue is better for your eyes. But yeah, it's just gross looking.
Yeah, I don't know, because I always thought blue light was supposed to be bad for your eyes at night.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's why they make those special like glasses now that you can block out blue light.
Blue blockers.
Yeah, blue blockers.
They look great.
Not blue ball blockers, but just blue blockers. I can't even say it.
Blue blockers. What else?
Haru wants to know, how do you eject from a helicopter?
Yeah. How do you think we eject from a helicopter? Yeah, that's not really a thing. In Russia, it is a thing, apparently.
Right.
It's obviously the K-50, and I think there was another aircraft that had that. But yeah, we don't have that option. You're riding it in. You get to live with your mistakes. For the rest of your life.
So you were based in Iraq too?
Yeah, I've gone to Iraq twice and Afghanistan once, and I got to go to Syria for about a week or so. Yeah.
Where'd you go in Iraq?
I was Yeah, no, I was up in Mosul in 2006. So that's northern Iraq. And then I got shot, so I came home about halfway through that deployment. And then so that was 2006. I got shot on Christmas Day, so I left the next
hold on.
day.
You gotta explain that you can't just be like, "Hey, I got shot on Christmas Day," and then move on. You gotta like
Dude,
do a little. You gotta do a little more explaining.
I've told this story so many times. Like,
oh, have you? I've
oh,
never heard this story.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, so we were flying. I was flying OH-58s, and we were just doing a morning patrol, and we ended up flying over some dudes who I think had basically set up an air ambush because like they were spot on. Typically, if we got shot at, all the bullets would hit kind of the tail boom because guys just don't lead the aircraft. You know, they're not like DCS dudes who can hit you from 5 miles away between the eyes. Most dudes miss you or hit the tail boom. We flew right over these dudes, and I mean, it sounded like being on the range. Like it was just gunfire, just loud as can be. So the bullet that hit me went underneath. I was sitting in the left seat, but the guy who was shooting at us was from the right, and we were really low, like 100 feet. And the bullet that hit me went underneath my right seater's seat, went through the collective. So if you look at the collective and you can see that handle there,
yeah,
the wooden handle, there was a straight up hole straight through there. And luckily for him, he was resting his hand on the collective head, so where all the buttons and switches are, that's where he had his hand. So the bullet kind of nicked his forearm, his wrist. But when it went through the collective, it split. And so I got hit multiple times by the same bullet. So I had one piece go through my upper arm, one piece go through my forearm. It kind of blew out the top of my forearm, and then I had more hit me in the elbow. I broke my elbow.
Wow.
And so we had between 13 and 15 rounds hit the aircraft, all forward fuselage. My windshield had a hole in it. My chin bubble was blown out down by my feet. Blades from the compression system in the engine were found in the combustion chamber. We were leaking fuel because there was like 5 holes in the fuel cell. One of the bullets severed the radio that we were using to talk to our wingman, so he wasn't responding to us, and we thought he'd been shot down. Yeah, it was chaos.
Wow.
And no, we didn't get to shoot back because I mean, literally, we had no idea these guys were there. We were just flying along, and suddenly we just got zipped. And at that point, our priority was just get the hell out of there.
Right.
Because in that same neighborhood, we'd had another guy a couple months before that get shot in that same area, and unfortunately, he was killed. A round hit him in the head.
Yeesh.
And yeah, and I mean, that was a month and a half after we got there. So and then so this is wild. So you know, again, unfortunately, he was killed. The very next day, another guy got shot in the head, but it went through the back of his helmet, and it just like went through his helmet, and he said he thought his co-pilot slapped him.
Oh my god.
For no reason. And so we were all like nervous. We're like, what the hell is happening? Like, how is this happening? After I got shot, we had 2 other guys get shot on that deployment. They both survived. I think they both got hit in the legs. And then we had another guy hit wires right outside of Mosul. There's Mongasso power lines, and they were doing a flight with the new unit that was coming to replace them. And the new guys just didn't know the wires were there, just didn't see them, and they ended up hitting them. It killed the new guy from the new unit, and then our guy, I don't think he ever flew again. He lost like 3 days of memory and stuff. So it was a really rough deployment. So that was 2006 in Mosul, and then I deployed 2009 and 10 to Afghanistan. I was up in Tarankout, which is up in the mountains, so it's about 100 miles north of Kandahar, and I flew Kiowas there. And then I deployed. My last deployment was in Iraq, back to Erbil, which is right across from Mosul. We would fly over to Mosul. It's probably about a 20-minute flight, and that's up in Kurdistan region.
Okay.
And that was 2018, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, and that was me flying Apaches. But by then, like, ISIS had basically been crushed.
Right.
You know, the Battle of Mosul was legit. I had friends that were there, and we were so excited because they were there right before us, and we were supposed to come in after them. and like they would text me like, "Holy shit, dude, we just fucking just did this and that and the other," and, and I've been to Missoula and I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't wait." and then like right before we were supposed to deploy, they're like, "Well, we won. They all left. They're all in Syria now. Damn it." So we showed up and it was pretty boring, but we did have some adventures in Syria. There was a big battle, and you can find this in Wikipedia. Like this battle is pretty well known actually, where these Syrians and not Russians, but they actually were Russians, decided to attack this oil. So basically, everybody was divided by the Euphrates River. So the west side of the Euphrates was the Russian sort of zone. The east side was the U.S. Kurdish zone, and everybody was picking on ISIS. But we also didn't get along with each other. Well, the Syrians, backed by these not Russians, decided that they were going to cross the river and attack this oil field. Well, we ended up flexing, jets, and we had artillery, and we had Apaches, and so a buddy of mine was actually on this flight, and I watched his gun camera footage, and it was brutal. I mean, it was just slaughtering dudes. I mean, there was tanks. It was like, this is the first time an Apache has seen a tank in his sight in 20 years or more.
Right.
And so it was a pretty big battle, and the not Russians got their asses kicked pretty badly. And I mean, there's articles about it because, and we're getting all geopolitical and shit, but I remember a few years ago in the Ukraine, you had the little green men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, they're not ours." But I don't know who these people are that are causing all this unrest. So it's really cool. So that started to happen here in this situation. And so the US side called the Russian side, and they're like, "Hey, do you have guys at this place?" And the Russians, "Oh, no, that's not our people." Like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Right.
Like, "Oh, well, you don't mind that we destroyed all these dudes, do you? Because they're not yours." And so, again, this is all open source data. I'm not sharing anything that you can't read about in Wikipedia and have had articles written about. But that was literally our first week on this deployment. Like, the other unit hadn't even left yet, and so we're all there like, holy shit! Like, is this World War III? Like, are we the guys who are starting World War III? And it was a very stressful time for the first few weeks. We just didn't know what was going to happen, but it turned out to be nothing over time.
That's pretty funny though. Not Russians.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's right. Contractors, quote unquote.
So I was at Taji for a year.
Okay.
But I was a firefighter.
Yeah.
Before that. So
yeah, I flew.
So explain. I don't know how much time you got. I want to take up all your time.
I got all the time in the world.
So you got shot on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And so your radio went out. So I'm trying to picture this here. So you got hit in the arm and broke your elbow.
Elbow. Yeah.
And so you fly back to the base, and was like there medical people there, or like they're not because they didn't know?
So to go back to the radio, so we had 4 radios in Kiowa. So you had 2 FM radios, 1 UHF and 1 VHF. Because we operated, Missoula's a big city. I think it was like 1.3 million people. But still, it's a city in the middle of the desert, right? So we basically just flew around the city all the time. So you were always 5 minutes away from the airfield. We always kept the VHF radio up on tower, and then we would talk internally on one of the FM radios. We'd talk to the ground unit on another FM radio, and the UHF was a waste because the ground units had these things called, what do they call them, Dukes, I think, and it was like a jammer.
Okay.
For IEDs, but it would just fry the UHF. Like, it would just scream in your ear the whole time. So we just turn them off. So our wingman couldn't call us. He's trying to call us. He doesn't know that we've been shot. He just knows that he got shot. They took fire and got a few holes in the aircraft. So they're trying to call us, and we're trying to call them, and they realize that something's not right. So they end up calling us on the tower freak, and that's how we end up communicating with them. So we turn back to the airfield again. It's only a couple minutes away. On the north end of Fob Diamondback of the runway, which it was Missoula International Airport was our base. On the north end, there was a combat surgical hospital, a cache, and they had a little pad there, and that's where the medevac birds would come in. So basically, we just flew into the airfield, and instead of going to our parking pad, we just continued to fly straight up the runway and then land at the medical pad. So I mean, once those guys hear a helicopter is coming, like they know something's up.
Right.
I don't even remember if anybody called ahead. I don't feel like we did, but I wasn't paying attention at that point.
Right.
The thing about getting shot like that is, you see these movies, somebody gets shot in the arm and they're just kind of like, oh, that sucks, and then they keep doing whatever they were doing. Like, no, like your arm, maybe if you get grazed with it or something, but like if it goes through muscle and stuff, like your body reacts to that.
Right.
And, the first few well, I mean, when I first got hit, the aircraft nosed over, and things were binging and bonging at me and stuff, and I was like, he's dead. Like, I assumed my right seater was dead because, again, I heard the guy shooting from the right side, and there was multiple shooters, but I heard the guy shooting from the right side. I get hit from the right side. I'm assuming he's got to be dead. So I reach for the controls because I'm thinking that we're diving in, and pretty quickly realize that no, he's fine because he's still flying. But after that is when my arm started to kind of seize up, and it just kind of curled up against my chest, because you're basically all your blood vessels and stuff start
contracting.
Yeah, it's like a poor man's tourniquet. Your body's just trying to stop all the bleeding. It took months of physical therapy before I could get my full range of motion back and everything. So yeah, there was no flying going on at that point. I was out of the fight.
Damn. You remember what you said? Did you just say like ow?
I remember saying what did I don't remember, like something. I'm hit. Yeah. I think I was like, shit, I'm hit or something. I know I said I'm hit, but I said something. I can't remember what. It was funny because like I'm good friends with the guy. He was my boss, actually. He was my commander, but we're still good friends. He just retired, and I asked him one day. I was like, did I scream like a little girl like when I got hit? And he's like, no. He's like, you sounded like a guy who'd like stubbed his toe or something. And I was like, well, I don't remember it that way, but all right,
First thing on your mind, did I scream like a little girl?
Yeah, I was ashamed. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Did you like come home right away?
It took about a week to get home. So this was Monday morning. I think it was probably about 9:30 in the morning when I got shot. We landed. I get pulled back into surgery. You'll like this. So I go back into surgery, and of course, they dope you up and everything. And so I'm out, and I'm coming to. And if you've ever, I'm sure you've probably at some point been put under for surgery or something. You start to wake up. Your eyes don't open, but you're conscious of what's going on around you. So I'm starting to be conscious of what's going on around me, and the first thing I hear is this girl's voice say, well, can I take a picture with him? And I go, yes. Like, I haven't even opened my eyes yet, and I'm just like, yes, you can. And it turned out it was this Black Hawk crew chief from the National Guard, but she was also a like a beauty pageant winner or something for her state or something.
Oh, okay.
And so she's there in uniform with her little pageant sash on. So I was like, okay. So
wow.
I take a picture with her. So then it's I got moved down to not to Taji. What was that near Taji? Balad.
Yeah, Balad.
Balad? Yeah. So I got moved to Balad that evening, and then the next morning flown to Germany to Landstuhl. So by Wednesday I was in Landstuhl. I had another surgery, I think that night or the next day, and then Friday flown back to the States.
Jeez.
And this is kind of screwed up too. So like the day I get back, it's like New Year's Eve, and so I'm going to bed, and of course, what's everyone doing New Year's Eve?
Right,
fireworks are going off like crazy.
Oh Jesus!
And I'm just laying in bed, just shaking.
Oh no!
But yeah, so yeah, it took 5 or 6 days to get back.
Man.
But it was cool because I flew back on a C-17 across the Atlantic.
Yeah.
and which was really sad because it was a medical C-17. You know, it was just, I mean, there was a dude who, like, think about Anakin Skywalker about to be put into the Darth Vader suit. Like, that's what this dude was in shape. Like, he was like inside of a machine that was keeping him alive. Like, you know, it was just these dudes who just been destroyed, in terrible shape. And then there's me, you know, I'm like, I got a pole in my arm. But, you know, but you're sitting on this plane and everyone had like a nurse assigned to them. And I was telling my nurse, I was like, hey, you know, I'm a pilot. Do you think I could get up to the cockpit? And, you know, and I'm kind of joking. And she's like, well, I'll check. And so she comes back later and she's like, hey, so the pilot used to fly Blackhawks in the Army. He's going to come down and talk to you. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So he was an Air Force Reserve guy flying C-17s now. So he comes down and we chat for a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I'll get you up in the cockpit later. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, then we get told that we're like, you know, 30 minutes out from landing in Andrews, and I'm thinking, well, okay, you know, he forgot, you know, no big deal. And I start getting strapped back into my litter, and she comes running up, and she's like, hey, they want you up in the cockpit. You're gonna sit up there. I was like, oh, cool. So I climb up in the cockpit, and I got to sit up there while they were landing and everything, and kind of jaw jack with them. So that was kind of neat.
So you had to stay up there for the landing?
Yeah, we stayed there the whole time and deplaned from there. And then hung out there until I got onto a C-130, and then they flew me back to Bragg from there. Andrews, you know, is up in DC area, and luckily Bragg has got a large hospital. You know, like if you were stationed in some little place and you had a major injury, well, you're not going home. But luckily in my case, I could. So,
man, it's one hell of a story, though.
Yeah, it was good. It was good times. Yeah, it sucked because, you know, again, my squadron was still there for another 6 months, and I couldn't fly, I couldn't do anything, and I started to heal up, and it took about 3 or 4 months before I was, you know, deemed worthy that I could do anything. And my squadron commander actually came back for something. I can't remember why he had to come back for something just short term, and I ended up talking to him, and you know, and I told him, I was like, well, sir, you know, I'm just trying to figure out if I'm coming back or not. And he's like, you've done enough, man. You don't need to worry about it. But at that time, the surge was kicking off in Iraq, and units were getting extended. And I, you know, my wife and I agreed, like, you know, if the unit gets extended, I'm definitely going back. I want to go back. You know, I would feel guilty if I didn't. But I'm not going to go back if they're coming back a month later. Like, it just, you know, just adding to their logistics drama.
Yeah, right.
And not really contributing. So, that was a shitty 6 months, and I missed out on a lot of flight time. We were flying our asses off. We were flying easily 80, 90 hours a month.
Jeez.
Yeah, we were smoked. So.
Yeah, it's one hell of a story, man.
Yeah, it's good times.
Did you have to? Are you right-handed? So did you have to learn how to use your left hand?
Yeah, for that short period of time. Yeah, I'm right-handed. Which, you know, that was the other shitty part, right? Because you have these weird conversations when you go overseas, and, you know, one of them was, well, you know, what if we get shot? You know, what if you get shot? And I was like, well, you know, if I get shot, I'm gonna get shot in the leg. You know, like even if I have to lose a leg, like, I'm okay with that, but I don't want to lose my arm. And then getting shot in the arm. I remember that was like the first thing I asked the doctor, you know, when they're wheeling me back there and stuff, and, you know, I'm in shock and everything. And I'm like, am I gonna lose my arm? And he's like, oh, no, you're gonna be fine. He didn't fucking know, like, but it made me feel better, you know.
Right.
So I was like, okay.
Right. When you're high on morphine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just want good news. So
you didn't have to sit around the clinic and play ping pong?
No,
like
no,
Forrest
it's
Gump?
not like, it's no Forrest Gump. That was the funny thing too. Like, when I was in the ward in launch school, I was the only guy who could walk. Like, everyone else was like IED victims, or, you know, or been shot in the leg or something. So they're all like bedridden, and so I could get up and move around, and, you know, and it's weird too, because think about it. I mean, you were in Taji, so if suddenly you were at work and then all of a sudden they just picked up all your shit and moved you to launch stool, like, you had the clothes that you were wearing. Like, I didn't have anything.
Right.
My roommate grabbed my laptop for me and like a couple things, but, you know, all of my shit was still in Iraq. And of course they cut the clothes off me, you know, because they're all covered in blood and stuff. You know, I just had whatever the hospital gown and stuff. And so I don't know, you were in the Air Force, right? Did you guys probably had something like this? Like we had the Army Emergency Relief Fund. Did you guys ever have something like that? Does that
Yeah,
sound
I
familiar?
forgot
Yeah.
what it was. But that was
Yeah.
17 years ago.
Oh wow. So that's actually helpful because like when I was in the hospital, they actually use that and they're like, hey, you automatically get like $200 and they just go buy clothes for you. Because you're stuck in the hospital. So, I got some jeans and some stuff. So I didn't have to look like a vagabond. So I could just go wander around the hospital and stuff for a day or two. But yeah, it was interesting.
Looks like
Uh,
the
this was
server
fun.
reset and it's snowing.
Oh, really? Nice. I haven't done a snowing one. This is probably the most boring stream for people.
Nah, man, people are enjoying it.
How many people you got watching?
It's only, well, it's 42. That's pretty high for
Oh,
DCS, so
yeah, that's good.
people enjoy it, man. People love story time.
Story time. Well, you got to check out my podcast then if you like story time.